Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. Took a week off of the podcast to celebrate Father's Day for myself. That was my Father's Day gift. I still mowed the lawn, washed the truck, got my jet ski back and forth, putting it up for sale. Yeah, that was my Father's Day. It was truly eventful. No, I didn't take a nap. No, I didn't eat lots of cake and ice cream. I just worked straight through. That's kind of the way I do things on the weekend. So yes, you are on Personal Pension Radio. I am the income engineer, Kraig Strom. You can always find me on LinkedIn is the best place to find me. If you search my name in Google, Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, Strom, S-T-R-O-M, I usually take up the first 4 or 5 pages of Google. If you'd like to take a look at that, thanks to my unique spelling and that first name, I do dominate the first 4 or 5 pages of Google, depending on your search. I love the conversation around investment planning, life insurance planning, estate planning, business planning. I love the retirement income conversation because it pulls all of those things together. And my mission, my goal is to empower you with the things to ask your financial advisor. If I'm not your financial advisor, if you're working with or searching for a financial planner, financial advisor, just to arm you with this perspective to ask questions, to go beyond the traditional Wall Street financial advisory machine, which tells you to do things this way, that this is the way we've done it, and this is the way we should do it, and we should keep doing it this way. Unfortunately, that has not worked. I have been educated in the past by the Wall Street financial advisory machine that basically finances the education and the marketing material for every financial advisor, financial planner in the U.S. And I have to tell you, the system is maybe halfway there. The Wall Street financial advisory machine promotes accumulation. Wall Street benefits when you and I put more money in Wall Street. So it goes with reason, if you will. If you use some reason, you would understand that Wall Street is not inclined to spend any time teaching people how to take money away from Wall Street. So non-conventional lending, real estate, life insurance, guaranteed annuities, things that are not Wall Street connected get very little attention from the multi-billion-dollar marketing machine that is Wall Street. Some $18 billion a year spent on marketing. That doesn't even include digital marketing, right? It's pretty amazing stuff. For those of you who are new to the show, I get this question all the time. What makes me different as a financial planner? Well, I think the key difference, just to take off on what I just said there, is that I am that non-Wall Street, broken away from the herd financial planner. I'm that guy standing over there away from the big line of people heading into the Wall Street machine saying, hey, you know there are other ways to do this, right? Over here, I'm that guy who's going to look beyond the simple Wall Street only solution. And I'm here to tell you that's where the secret to maximum retirement income is. That's where the secret to truly diversified asset portfolios is. It is when you bring yourself back away from the Wall Street only machine and you look at the entirety of your financial picture, that's when you can achieve true financial success. It's just not going to happen with a product. It's not going to happen with an IRA. It's not going to happen with a 401k. It doesn't happen with life insurance, real estate, annuities. None of those things by themselves really help you to optimize your financial position. You've got to have an integrated approach. And the challenge is that most Wall Street firms and Wall Street trained financial planners and financial advisors, they're not going to incorporate things that are not within that Wall Street centric model. It's just not going to happen. So you're not going to hear about them from your typical Charles Schwab advisor. You're not going to hear about it from your typical Merrill Lynch or insert name of big name Wall Street firm. You're just not going to hear those things. With me, you're going to hear it all. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about life insurance, annuities, investments. We're going to talk about all of those things and how they work together. That's what makes me different. That, and I'm a little bit crazy, and I have a podcast. Quick disclosure before I jump in today. I am not an attorney. I am not a certified public accountant. I am a certified financial planning professional. All that aside, and as smart and confident as I might sound and qualified that I may be, please don't act on things that you hear on my show. If you hear something on my show, don't run out there and go, that's good for me, I should go do that. That is not the case. You really should meet with a qualified financial planner. And I would love that person to be me. I would love that. Please, the world is an extremely small place nowadays. And I say that having talked to Alejandro, hello out there in Saudi Arabia. Right? Yes, I actually have listeners all the way out into Saudi Arabia, and Alejandro and I talked last week on Facebook audio, Facebook messaging. Fantastic. I love that. That's the thing. Before you actually act on anything, whether it's buying life insurance, whether it's investing in something, whether it's a new retirement planning decision, please meet with a qualified financial planner. And I'd love that person to be me. If you want to, send me an email, Kraig, K-R-A-I-G, at Kraigstrom, S-T-R-O-M.com. That's an easy way to get me. Now, a shout out today to my listeners in Maine. Maine is where I grew up as a kid. I'm going to be talking about it a bit more today in the show. I'm on my way to Maine later today, actually, and very much looking forward to some time on the lake and some bass fishing, some lobster, and some whoopie pies. So hello to everybody listening in Maine. I look forward to being there tomorrow, actually, because I fly late today. Very much looking forward to it. Now, no deal of the week this week. I'm still working on my garage doors, and I really don't spend money just for the heck of it to get a deal of the week. I'll put it in there the next time a great deal comes along. Now, segment 1, watch your step. In the last episode, the last show, I was really just want to encourage you. Patience. Patience is paramount when it comes to your parents' assets. A son had called me, and it seems like a trend this last few weeks. A son had called me to ask about the best way to transfer his mother's house into his name, right? The bottom line was that legal solutions and financial solutions, maybe a combination of things, should always be considered before pulling the trigger on a transfer of an asset like real estate. And it's important if you have that situation, if you've heard about that in someone's family, please go back and listen to the last episode. Now, this week, I want to share a personal story. This will be my therapy session for the day. But this week, I want you to beware of irrational exuberance. Irrational exuberance, that idea where you get all excited about something and you don't necessarily know why, or you haven't really verified the details as to whether or not you should be excited about it. It's kind of like the stock market over the last several years. There are so many examples of irrational exuberance. People investing in companies and oh, it's so exciting and I should invest in this and invest in that. And I ask them why, and they say, well, it seems like it's a really great thing. Do you know anything about it? Do you know that that particular company is not profitable? Do you know that they kind of haven't made any money at all? Wow, I didn't know that. Irrational exuberance is that kind of look or leap before you look, right? So as I mentioned, later today, I'm heading to Maine. I'm going back to Maine where I grew up as a kid, right? Now, I left there when I was a teenager, which means that all of my memories are from a time that I had no major responsibilities in life. I never had to get up and go to work in February, in a terrible, early year snowstorm, right? I never had any of that kind of memory. My memories of Maine was just, life is great. Fishing and snowmobiles and sledding and dirt bikes and ice fishing and lobster and going to the lake, right? And from the time I was born, my family would gather at the lake where great-grandpa had a cabin. And that cabin passed to my grandfather, and eventually everyone thought in the family that it would pass to my mom and her brothers, and it would stay in the family, right? And we would continue to have summer barbecues at the lake. Well, as life turned out, my alcoholic grandfather put the cabin up for sale almost immediately after my grandma died. And he refused to sell the cabin to my mom and her brothers, even though they offered and they could all afford it together. They were going to buy it from him at a good, reasonable price. And he was an absolute jerk. And he sold it out from underneath the family. And the memories of that event, just terrible time, they are just seared in my brain. They have just seared in my brain. And as I've gotten older, I find myself longing to get out of California and return back to that small town life on the lake. California is just, for those of you who are not in California, for those of you who are in California, please, I understand California has a lot of great things. The challenge is that California has just has had this fast track to the bottom in so many different categories, from taxes to traffic to education to quality of life. I mean, California has fast-tracked itself to the bottom of the list in so many things, and it just drains on this little small-town boy inside, and I long for that life back on the lake. Well, a few days go by at a time, right? A few days go by at a time as I'm thinking about my trip coming up, going back to Maine, right? And I can't stop thinking about, man, I really love that idea of being in Maine. I love the memories. And, well, I am heading back to Maine because my Uncle Bob passed away. My Uncle Bob and I were pretty close. And heading back to Maine, I just can't help but think, right? Going to his memorial service this weekend, now more than ever, my childhood memories are just front and center. And the next thing you know, I'm looking at Realtor.com, searching for homes for sale on the lake. And then I'm talking to a realtor about a couple of properties that are on the lake. And the next thing you know, I'm talking to a mortgage advisor. And then I'm searching Airbnb for rental rates to determine the potential income. And before long, I was well on my way to buying a cabin on the lake in Maine. I knew this was an emotional decision. My friends, my business coach, everybody knew this was an emotional decision, and most people said, go for it. Go for it. Live your dream. Go for it. And, I was there. And as I prepared to send in the details needed for my mortgage application, because, by the way, for those of you who think, oh, you should pay cash for real estate. No, I was thinking of this as a property I would obviously have to rent out during the summers when I couldn't be there. I'd love to be there, but I can't be there all the time, so I would rent it out. And I'm here to tell you, real estate that is paid for cash, that you're renting it out, the rate of return is not good. To truly get the benefit of rental real estate, you have to have a 30-year mortgage on it. A 30-year mortgage on a rental property enhances your rate of return. Done right, mortgage on a rental property is always a better rate of return and safer in the long run. Okay. And you can accumulate greater wealth by investing the difference elsewhere. That's a different topic. So those of you who are out there scoffing, saying, "Oh, you should pay cash for that cabin," right? I disagree. And if you'd ever like to talk about the details and understand the math behind why that is my opinion and my teaching, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But now, as I had prepared to send in the information for my mortgage, right, I stopped. I had to stop and I asked myself, does this fit with what I teach my clients about wealth building? Does it fit with the 4 wealth objectives? So let's go through the 4 wealth objectives for building wealth. Wealth objective number 1, build wealth efficiently first. Efficiently first before chasing rate of return. So, is buying a cabin in Maine an efficient thing to do? No, it is not. When I did the math and I stepped back away from the emotion of it all, it's not efficient. It's very unlikely that I would even break even if I were renting it out, just because of the way the seasons work and the expenses that are involved in maintaining a cabin in a wintry, environment like New England, right? Wealth objective number 1, build wealth efficiently first. No, doesn't work. Wealth objective number 2, plan for maximum enjoyment. Make sure that whatever financial decisions that you're going to make, are you going to be able to enjoy those decisions during your lifetime? Or do you have to have a situation where, like, let's use a 401k as an example. I'm going to put lots and lots of money in a 401k, but technically I really can't touch it or enjoy it for 20, 30 years sometimes, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't put money in a 401k. However, when it comes to an investment, how will it enhance your life and make your enjoyment factor on that investment? How will it actually materialize? Well, in this case, I'd be able to use it for 2 or 3 weeks out of the year, right? Other people would enjoy it. My aunt would enjoy it. My uncle would enjoy it because they live close enough to use it more frequently, right? So that doesn't work for me. Pass it on. Wealth objective number 3. Pass on to maximum legacy. Maximum legacy. Whatever your maximum is and whatever your chosen legacy is, make sure that you're situated to pass it on, right? Now, that works, yeah. I would be paying for this cabin and then I would pass it on to my daughter, but would she really want it? Where will she live in her life? Where will she settle down? Will she get married? Will she have kids? Will she live in the country, out of the country? I don't know. Who knows what that legacy would look like, right? Now, so that's a question mark. I'm not sure. Wealth objective number 4. Works under most any condition. Does that investment, that financial decision work under most any condition, or does it only work under perfect conditions? Well, clearly, a cabin on the lake only really works if I'm trying to make a rental return on it and trying to actually pay the bills on it. It only works if you can actually rent the place out and if a giant tree doesn't fall on the roof full of snow and crush the roof, right? I mean, it doesn't work under most any condition. There's some serious risks involved with an old cabin on the lake. That's just the nature of it. So as I went through my own teaching, 4 wealth objectives, the answer to all of them was no. So why was I headed down this path? It was irrational exuberance. It was emotion, right? That's what it was. I recognized it. My updated plan is to rent a place on the lake for 2 or 3 weeks out of the year and invest the difference somewhere else. Invest my money in a more efficient and profitable place. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go there and enjoy the heck out of being there. I'm going to love it. I'm going to go bass fishing. I'm going to walk the railroad tracks. I'm going to eat lobster. I'm going to barbecue hot dogs on the lake. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do it again, maybe later in the year. and I'm going to be more efficient in where I put and deploy my investments. Okay. So there's my therapy session. And I would encourage you, if you're out there looking at a stock, you're looking at real estate, you're looking at a decision of similar nature, step back for a moment. 4 wealth objectives: efficiency first, enjoyment factor, legacy, works under most any condition. If you can't pass those off, you might want to step away and ask yourself why you're headed down that path. Okay? Now, segment 2, a listener question. This is actually a listener questions and client questions. So I was introduced to a gentleman from a local CPA, and the question came in. It was actually about real estate again. I'm telling you, it's just been happening lately. Maybe it's here in Southern California because the value of real estate has gone up so much that people are considering, how do we sell this? How do we get out of this without paying taxes, right? Well, another family real estate question came in from this person. He was introduced by a CPA partner of ours. And the question was, should we use a special transfer provision in the California tax code that allows for property taxes to stay at the original purchase level? So for those of you who don't know, California is one of the worst tax states. We have the highest taxes of any state in the union. We are over the top. We are number one when it comes to being terrible on taxes. Tax. There is 1 or 2 shining little examples of amazing tax benefits in the California tax code, and one of them is this thing called Prop 13. So if you buy a house 1,000 years ago in Los Angeles and you pay $40,000 for it, now let's be real. You paid $25,000 for it, right, forever ago, and you pay property taxes. Well, your property taxes are fixed at that purchase price way back when. There's some adjustments over time, but for the most part, your property taxes are pegged and they don't ever go up again. Most other places, many other places in the country, your property taxes go up every year. And some places, I've heard things like Chicago and other places in Ohio, not Ohio, but Chicago and other places, I've heard horror stories that the property taxes have gone up so much that people who have paid off houses have to sell their houses because they can't afford the dang property taxes. One shining little example of good tax situation in California is that the tax rate doesn't keep rising even though the value of your home is going through the roof. So here's the example. Mom wants to give her rental home that she's owned for over 30 years, she wants to give it to her son so he can benefit from the rental income and the future value, right? But she doesn't want to sell it because the property taxes are so high. And, not property taxes, the capital gains taxes would be so high, she'd have to pay some pretty significant capital gains taxes because her little $25,000 house is now worth over $600,000. $600,000 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. How's that for my friends out in Idaho and Tennessee, right? 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Los Angeles County. That's right, $600,000, right? That's incredible. Think about that. But the property taxes are pegged 30 years ago. So there is a mechanism by which the mom can transfer the property to her son and keep that property tax fixed, but there's a bigger issue, right? There's a huge issue so I asked why his mom wanted to give him the house. And he said, it's because it has become a maintenance problem. Mom does not want to keep dealing with all the repairs and the upkeep on this rental property. And I said, does it have a mortgage? And he said, no, it's paid off. All right. Now, remember, I came back earlier. I said there's a bigger issue to all this. That if they use this provision in the code that allows them to transfer this to him and keep that original property tax basis, right? That property tax base, what they're also going to get is the original purchase price basis is going to transfer to the son as well. So the transfer of the purchase price basis is a heck of a lot bigger issue to deal with, but he wasn't thinking about that, right? So I asked the question, what's the rental income on this little place? Well, it's $2,000 a month, $24,000 per year. Now let's do the math, folks. We've got a $600,000 asset, $24,000 income. It's a 4% gross rate of return, meaning that's before expenses, repairs, taxes, vacancies, damages to the property, right? So when you add in even the small amount of property tax that they pay, all the expenses, the repairs, possible vacancies, and tenant damage, the net operating income of this property is closer to 1%. And with a big bad problem like a repair that, heaven forbid they needed a termite tenting or an air conditioner repair or a slab leak. We live in earthquake country, right, folks? We can have a slab leak. This thing could shake loose. Well, now you're at a negative rate of return, right? And I asked this guy, I said, what is it about this house that is driving you to want to keep it when it pays less than a guaranteed CD would probably pay? Maybe even much less. And he said, I grew up in that house, but really nothing in particular. Nothing in particular is really getting him excited about it. So, not to belabor the point, this guy was being completely irrational about the asset because it is real estate. For generations, many people have been programmed to think that real estate is something different. It's something special. It's something other than just another asset. For the record, I love real estate. It's the ultimate packaged commodity. It's the only investment that you can buy with government-sanctioned tax-deductible debt. It's a phenomenal asset. It really is. It's an awesome asset. But what people fail to do is step back from this ingrained feeling about real estate and analyze it as an investment, as just another asset, and compare to other assets or other investments in the real estate space. So, for example, first trust deeds. First trust deeds is where you take a certain amount of money and you provide it to somebody who wants to buy a house or flip a house, and you are on the deed in first position because you're the lender, right? So a first trust deed on an investment real estate property can pay an interest rate of 7 to 12%. And you don't have to own the property unless the borrower doesn't pay, and then you get the property. It's actually backed by real estate, but you don't have the hassles of owning real estate. So let's see. We got a $600,000 asset paying less than 4% and maybe way less than 4%. So probably maybe they'll be lucky to net, right, $12,000 on this $600,000 asset, or mom sells the property, pays taxes, and the son is gifted the money through the proper channels, And now he earns 9% being a lender in the real estate space, but not owning the real estate. So instead, we get maybe a $12,000 to $18,000 income versus a $45,000 income that is secured by a hard asset that you don't have to manage unless the borrower defaults, and then you get to keep the house. I know it's hard, folks, but try. Try to step back away from the emotional, ingrained thinking and analyze an investment as an asset. Whatever that asset is, even if it's a piece of real estate. Real estate is that one asset class, I tell you, that more and more, every time I talk to somebody, it is the one that people are more and more susceptible, as I was, to that irrational, emotional, just built into our DNA kind of thinking that somehow that real estate is so special because it's real estate. It's just an asset, folks. Strip it down to its basic, it's an asset, and compare it to another asset. I hope this helps. I hope that as you go through this conversation with me and you're thinking about it, that you get an idea that the investment world and the retirement income space and all of these different topics, they carry these biases. We all carry these biases. We carry these emotional components that are built in. And I hope this might help you as you analyze something that may be in your life right now. Maybe it helps you step back. Maybe you go talk to your financial planner and ask some questions from a different perspective now. Please do. And if you want to get in touch with me to talk about your own real estate investment deals or this idea of non-conventional lending and being the bank, right? Because that may be a topic that you've never explored. And I'll tell you, your Wall Street advisor is not going to bring up non-conventional lending because they don't make any money on it, folks. So if you want to talk about it, this and any other things that might be on your mind about your personal situation, please send me an email, Kraig, Kraig, at kraigstrom.com. I am heading off to go get some lobster and whoopie pies. Folks, I hope you're all doing great. Please keep all the questions coming. Please, those of you who have recently thrown some great feedback on iTunes, I love you. Thank you so much. And if you've ever wanted to give me any feedback on iTunes, now's the time. I could use the love. I do appreciate it so much. Thank you again. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. We took notes for you, so if you missed any part of the show, you can find a full transcript of each episode at personalpensionradio.com. Be sure to download your free retirement income crisis report at personalpensionradio.com. While you're at it, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.